Good afternoon. Welcome to this special edition of NCSA Live. I am Danny Koenig, Director of Regional Recruiting here at Next College Student Athlete. Excited to be with you guys. This past Tuesday was National Student Athlete Day. And we've taken it upon ourselves to put some programming not only on that Tuesday, but we've made it a week-long event, something we obviously want to celebrate and continue to help you guys through this process, educate families about recruitment and what that's going to look like. So today, joined by a very special guest, Coach Charles Watkins of Concordia-University right here in Chicago. Coach, how are things going? How are you?
Great. Thanks for asking. Also, thanks for having me on this show. I'm excited to talk about some recruiting and football.
We got a lot to talk about, right? Football's a big one for us, right? There's about 250,000 high school football athletes in our network that use us to identify and evaluate schools that are going to make sense for them. It's a good way to get some exposure. But, you know, every coach, every recruiting coordinator at the collegiate level is going to do this kind of in their own way. So we want to touch on those points, in regards to what Coach Watkins is going through and some of the things that he's doing. So currently, Coach Watkins is sitting in the airport. He is on his way to an event. He's headed to Atlanta to identify and evaluate some prospects down there. So I guess, first and foremost, Coach, thanks for being here. Really excited to talk to you, coach to coach, and impart some of this wisdom upon the people that are viewing right now. But let's just start kind of from the beginning. You've got a long history. You've seen a lot of different things. You've been through the transfer process. You played Division I ball. You've coached at basically every level, high school, all the way up through college. And now you find yourself in this fortunate position to be a recruiting coordinator and really impact the lives of student athletes. So, in your experience, what is, like, how do you approach the recruiting process as a recruiting coordinator?
Absolutely. That's such a great question. For me, it's all about relationships. And from the first time I talked to you to we want to have this relationship last forever. And that's why I tell our players, it'll go from 4 years to 40 years. That's my goal. And just building that relationship, because I want the parents to trust me. I want your high school coach to trust me. I want your girlfriend to trust me, right? And throughout the whole process, I'm building this relationship with everyone just to find out who we're actually recruiting and getting a character evaluation. So it's just about having a relationship and genuine relationships with everyone. Because if it's not genuine, the players will know and it won't last.
Well, and obviously you're trying to build a culture, right? You have a coaching philosophy. You've got a good program that you're trying to build into a championship program, and finding the right people to be a part of that program is going to be important. So the relationship building part of it was important to me as a Division I recruiting coordinator, because you want to know who you're recruiting and who's going to be a part of that team for 4 years. But that process, as you know, takes time, right? You're not going to build a relationship overnight. So for you, when do you actually start the recruiting process in order to build those relationships?
Gotcha. So right now, we're at the end of 2021. In Division III, you're never really done, right, until maybe June. But I'm in the beginning process of 2022 right now. I use your guys' service a lot, just trying to find out who's in our area, who's in our pipeline for Georgia, Florida, Texas. Get that prospect sheet, and then we'll start from there. We'll evaluate it. We'll look to see, okay, this guy fits what we need academically, because in Division III, that's where it starts at. Academically, who can get accepted into our university, and then we turn on the film. We see if this kid can play here or not, and then from there, we want to get on the phone with them, and that's when the relationship starts. That's when we find out who is this person, and how can we not only sell ourselves here, but how will he be a perfect fit for our university?
Certainly a lot of things that I want to touch on there. And obviously we're very focused on the Division III side of things. I was a Division III coach as well. And really you kind of recruit based on the application deadlines, those sorts of things. So, it's a little bit different. And I know you have experience at scholarship offering programs, Division IIs, Division Is. How are things different, coaching at a Division III and recruiting to a Division III versus sometimes, at a Division II or a Division I program?
Right. So the scholarship, that word, that buzzword, what makes all of it different, right? We're only allowed to offer roster spots here. We can't give a scholarship, but the beauty of Division III is that we're able to give a financial aid package, which we'll touch more on, right? I don't want to steal your thunder, but for the academics, with the financial aid, we're able to come up with an award letter right? That's combine those two, that can be greater than some schools that don't offer a full ride, right? Not every Division II offer a full ride. Not every D1 school offers a full ride. There's a lot of non-scholarship D1s out there that we compete against, and we're able to create a package based on their academics and based on their financial need that can be greater than the schools that can offer a scholarship. And that's what I want every parent out there in the nation to know, that Division III can be affordable, and it can be a lot cheaper than D1 and D2 schools out there.
I'm totally with you. And that was a big selling point for me, that, I would kind of lean into admissions and financial aid to determine what kind of money an athlete would be looking at. And I could actually pit that against, what some of the Division I programs could offer. School overall is going to be cheaper if you come to my Division III, plus you're going to be a stud. So let's put a pin in that, because I do want to come back to that financial aid process. It is a little bit different for each school at the Division III level. So maybe you can impart some wisdom there. But I want to come back to something that you had said earlier, that we really, really need to highlight in this process for athletes in particular, but certainly parents as we go through it. And that's the importance of grades and good test scores. So, when you talk about going through this process and where you guys start to evaluate our athletes that can get into your school, what's like your methodology for identifying and evaluating prospects that are going to do well in the classroom?
Right. And this goes back to the relationships part. I try to be honest and open with every person I recruit, right? Not try, I am honest with everyone. And I tell them, hey, without grades, your opportunity is this little, right? The higher your grades, the more opportunities you will have. And I'm a kid from the inner city, Camden, New Jersey, right? And I was blessed that I had parents that stressed the importance of education. Not a lot of my friends had that. They had the talent, but they had a 2.5. They might not have been able to get the clearinghouse, so they had to maybe go a different route. But if you have the GPA, if you have over a 3.0, right, the more financial you'll get, the more academic scholars you'll get. But now you're able to get recruited by all the schools in the nation, right? Take Harvard, for example, right? I think their minimum is a 3.8. If you don't have a 3.8, then you got to check Harvard off your list. And that's the biggest thing for us when I tell our kids, hey, yes, you can get in with a 3.0, but the higher GPA, the more academic scholarships you will receive.
Well, and this is a really important distinction, because now you're talking about just being a qualifier.
Yes.
So for those of us in the old school, it used to be called the clearinghouse, right? The NCAA clearinghouse, and now it's the eligibility center. You can be eligible as a qualifier to compete at the NCAA level. However, that doesn't necessarily mean you're going to be admitted to that school, right? If you want to play at Princeton or Harvard, you better have the grades to get into Princeton or Harvard, right? So, and similar is going to be for you, because ultimately at the Division III space, you're recruiting these athletes to go to school, with the intent that they're going to help you build a championship football program. So, that's a really important distinction that we need to make for families, that just because you're eligible to participate doesn't mean necessarily that you're going to be admitted to that school.
Correct.
And you and I both know that athletes with good grades and good test scores tend to get the most scholarship money from a Division III. So, kind of, tying this back into our timeline, think about this from the athlete perspective, that you're starting to basically recruit high school juniors right now. What should those athletes have done to help themselves out from an academic standpoint leading up to their junior year?
Absolutely. And this is where it gets tricky because of COVID, right? Usually a junior right now should be taking standardized tests, with that being the SAT or the ACT. They should be gearing up taking that just to make sure that they meet whatever university they want to attend requirements. So make sure doing that. Make sure taking care of business in the classroom, right? It's not the time to let up. It's the time to, challenge yourself. Everybody wants to see, are you taking AP classes? How are you challenging yourself? How are you community service, right? They want to be able to see how diverse this student is. Or is he just focused just on football and academics, right? How is he giving back to his community? What type of person he is? So just being involved, just making sure you're a great teammate, helping out others, I would say should be the main focus point. And then go out there and go to camps, rising camps, so that way these schools can evaluate you in the recruiting process.
Definitely. And again, athletes, if you're on this, listen up. Grades and test scores are your best route to earning some scholarship, and it's just flat out going to open doors for you. So those are things that even if you're a freshman in high school, that you can start to consider now. Have those conversations with your guidance office. Say, look, I'm thinking about this. I need to be a qualifier. I need to take classes that are approved by the NCAA to be a qualifier, and then making sure that you do well in those courses. Coach is sitting here saying, push yourself. Right, they're trying to recruit athletes that are good people, that do community service, that kind of go the extra mile. That really speaks volumes about what they're going to do on the field for you as a coach over the course of their 4 years. So I didn't want that messaging to be lost, in the fray here that, grades and test scores are going to be the best route to these athletes getting a good education and possibly some scholarships. So let's go back to this a little bit. You saying you're starting to work with the 2022s. Those are juniors. What just generally does the process look like for you? What can these athletes expect from you throughout the recruiting process?
Right. And sort of touch back on, sorry, I don't want to, like you said, that's very important with the test scores and the GPA. You want to make sure when you get it, you send it out to those coaches. You email it to them. So that way they have it on file. So that way they can say, hey, he does meet our requirement. Let's continue. Then from there is coaches now, we'll start our virtual tour here in May. Right. So when we send out those emails, make sure you fill it out. Make sure that you're attending these events, right? Because now that we're selling our school, we're telling you why it'd be a good fit. That's the time to ask questions. That's the time to see what the school is about, right? And Zoom made it so easy. So if you're living in Florida and Georgia, you're saving yourself a trip. We're bringing the university to you. So that's an unbelievable opportunity to see, hey, is this school a good fit for me? And then we find out if this student is a good fit for us. So that's where we'll be in May. And then June, we'll get the camps. And then July, hit some camps. And then August is starting about the application process. By then, we built that relationship. We can find out who's a good fit, who's not a good fit. And then we'll continue to recruit process all the way through their senior year.
Cool. Just a quick shout. Anybody that has questions for Coach Watkins, please drop them in the chat box here. We want to make sure that we're answering those. This is your time to learn from a genuine expert, someone that's going through the process right now. So please drop questions in the comments box here. We'll be happy to get to those towards the end of the show. One thing that I wanted to pick up on, I think for you, a big target date in your recruitment is going to be that May. I don't know. Do you guys call it a junior day?
So now it's like junior virtual day.
Sure.
But yeah, we do have one. It'll be every Sunday in May, right? I know our university has a particular day that they have all juniors on campus, and that's just not athletes. That's every student body, and we encourage kids to come there too. But for us in Illinois, they're still playing football. They're still doing other sports, so it's tough for a kid to come out here. So the Zoom, make it very easy for them. We do it on a Sunday because we want the parents involved as well. We know that they're busy, they're working, so we felt Sunday evenings will be a great time to sit there and have a conversation with the parents and the prospect.
Yeah. Again, we're here with Coach Charles Watkins. He is the recruiting coordinator at Concordia-University here in Chicago. So kind of, we talk about checkpoints, right? As a recruiting coordinator, as a coach, there are things that you're building up to. For you, it's identifying and evaluating prospects that can get into your school first. Evaluating video is going to be a big part of it because you're obviously not going to travel all over just to figure out if a kid is any good. Building relationships with coaches is going to kind of bolster your pipeline to make sure you're getting the right kids set in your direction. And then kind of the first big checkpoint is, can we get you to one of these virtual days? And I know that's been very popular, obviously driven by COVID, but I think a lot of coaches like yourself are figuring out it's easy to engage with these athletes from anywhere in the country by hosting these dates. So when you guys are putting that together to kind of showcase athletics, showcase your team, showcase the school, what could an athlete expect out of one of those virtual visits?
Right. And so overall, we start with a message from our head coach, what he's looking for, what our culture is here. We'll get into academics. We'll tell you about the different majors we have here. We'll tell you about our process, study hall, the requirements that we hold our athletes to, the standards, and then we'll get into the strength and conditioning. We'll talk about our all year round process. And that's something I had to learn. When I got to Duke, I thought it was just from August to December, right? I didn't know about spring ball. I didn't know about winter conditioning. And we tell the kids, hey, this is a 365 all year round. And then we touch on how the recruit process will go from there. And that'll usually take about an hour. We'll also include a video of a campus tour, showing what the dorm looks like, showing what our office look like, the football facilities, the weight room, show you what the student center looks like, and give you, an in-depth look of what we can offer you. And then we show them how close to the city we are. We're, that's what a lot of people, they hear Chicago, they don't realize we're in the suburbs of Chicago in River Forge, which is 30 minutes outside from downtown, multi-million-dollar community. And we show them how we got the train station that's about 5 minutes from campus they can walk to and get into their internship. So we just give them the whole picture of what it would look like to be a student here at CUC.
which is exactly what you need to be doing as a recruiting coordinator. Kind of, you're basically marketing your school, right? Just saying, look, this is what we're about, and just putting forth a good product that it's like, you're not necessarily even trying to trick kids into liking what you're doing. You're just trying to present what's real about the school from a lot of different perspectives. So I would imagine for you guys, that junior day or those virtual days, every weekend in May are going to be pretty big. But first, is that by invitation only? Are you inviting everybody? Are you looking for a certain group and a response? And then what do you hope to be the outcome from some of those virtual visits?
Great question. So it's invite only, right? So that's where we're in the process right now. We're evaluating. We use your guys' platform, right? We look and see who meets our requirement, who meets the position need. We'll send out the invitation through email, through text, and then we'll say, hey, what day can you come, right? Our goal now is to get everybody there, and then from there, see who we can get to our camp, right? We have a camp every Friday in June. Sorry, the first 3 Fridays in June. We'll have them there. And then from the camp, we'll see, hey, are you still interested? Do you like the coaches? Do you see how they're coaching you up? And then we want them to apply. I think the earliest they can apply now, I believe it's July 1. We want them to apply there, get their transcripts in, get them accepted. And then we got to wait till October for them to fill out their financial aid. And then hopefully get them on a game day visit throughout their whole process through September, October, November. And then in December, see, hey, where are you at in the recruiting process? We've been recruiting for you half the year. Are you ready to make a decision by the early signing day? Most kids now are. Some of the kids come late, so now they make a decision in February. But that's kind of like the whole timeline. Come to the junior day visit, apply, come to a game day visit, fill out the FAFSA, and then see if you can do an overnight visit, which COVID kind of put a stop to that. But usually those overnights are in December or January, and then make a decision by signing day.
So what are your expectations from an athlete or their family leading into those virtual visits? Like, how would an athlete get an invite to one of your virtual days?
Absolutely. So we do have a questionnaire. It's on my Twitter handle, or you can send me a DM. I'm open. I don't want no stone unturned. I want to be able to see everybody from Idaho all the way out to New Jersey. So feel free to send us information. We'll evaluate it, and then we'll send you an invite there. So it's not something that isn't easily accessed. It's just about applying if you are interested in Concordia, Chicago. And that's the thing, too. We know not every kid wakes up and say they want to go to the CUC, right? When I was a kid, it was all about the U. I wanted to go to the U. So it's all about trying to find that right fit for you academically, spiritually, socially.
Again, we're here with Coach Charles Watkins. He is the recruiting coordinator for the football program at Concordia-University here in Chicago. It's interesting because once you guys hit that virtual day, it's like at a breakneck pace because you're running camps. You got kids applying as of July 1st, and then you're hosting visits in theory, right? And then they may have signed by November. So you're basically talking about a 5 or 6 month period where things are really going to move. Our suggestion, and again, this is just my opinion as a former recruiting coordinator, just knowing how early this process can start, is that families basically do the same.
Yes.
They need to be prepared to move very quickly over the course of 5 months once this process gets going and kind of have their ducks in a row before then. What would be your suggestions or preferences for families leading into that time period to best set themselves up for success?
I think you hit it right on the nail. It's getting the parents involved. Right now, a lot of student athletes doing all this right now. He's filling out the questionnaire. He's looking at the university, right? So I encourage the parents out there to ask their son, hey, where are you looking at, right? And then find out, hey, do they have your major? Asking all those tough questions, right? Do you see yourself there? How will you get an internship? So the prospects reaching out to their parents, say, hey, can you help me in this process? But also the parents saying, hey, son, how can we help you evaluate this university? Is huge. And that's where relationship comes in at. When I reach out to the student athlete, I want to know who's involved. Is it mom? Is it dad? Is it grandma? Is it the head coach? I want to know who's his hero, who's going to help him make that tough decision. And I want them to know that they can feel safe and sending their son to Concordia University, because I'm going to be honest with them. I'm going to be transparent with them the whole time. I got kids, they'll say, hey, coach, I love to come there, but I got a 2.7. That's the tough conversation. Hey, son, I know you want to be here, but because of your academics, you will not be accepted or admitted into the university, right? So it's just being transparent, having those tough conversations with the student athlete, but him also having those conversations with his parents.
Little known fact about coaches is that if the smart recruiters will recruit the parents as much as they recruit the athlete, because the parents are on the front line, and the parents ultimately are going to be having those conversations behind closed doors with the athlete. So to a degree, you are recruiting parents as well, and they need to be involved, right? They're certainly going to be involved, but a lot of this obviously is going to be driven by the student athlete as well. Again, quick reminder, we will be answering some questions here very shortly. If you have questions for Coach Watkins, please drop those in the chat box. We'd love to get to those here in a couple of minutes. Last thing, I put a pin in it. I wanted to come back to it. The financial aid piece at the Division III level. A lot of questions about where athletes can earn some money for being of value to that campus. It's a little bit different with Division III, although you and I both know that there is money to be had at the Division III level. Each school is a little bit different. So for you guys, what's your process for teasing out the amount of money that an athlete could potentially earn from Concordia University?
Great question. So I challenge every student out there and the parents too. Do your research on the school. Every school has a tier. Every school has an academic requirement, and they'll tell you how much money they will offer, right? For us, if you have a 4.0 all the way down to about a 3.8, you can get $20,000 right from the start if you had that requirement, right? And then with the test scores, I believe it got to be close to a 30 to meet that requirement. And then the next tier, right, is probably 18 to 15,000, and then that tier after there, 12 to 10,000. So based on your GPA, we'll let you know how much academic scholarship you will receive, and that's at every university, right? If they don't post it, ask those questions. Ask the admission counselor, hey, if my son have this, how much would he be eligible for academic scholarship? And then it's the financial aid piece, which is a very, very sensitive subject, because a student might have a 0 EFC, right? How much can a family contribute, right? That student that has 0, he's going to get more funding from the government, and he might get more funding from the university itself. And if he has a 3.5 and he has a 0 EFC, well, he's going to get a lot of academic scholarship, and then he's going to get a lot of financial aid. With those two combined, maybe his out-of-pocket cost is anywhere from $5,000 to $8,000 a year. So now it's making it affordable for that kid. And now it's say, hey, do I want to take out the student loans that are offered, or do I not? Do I want to try to get a job in the summer and help pay this by semester? So those are the ins and outs, the nuts and bolts. The very tough question is, how much can I get academically? How much can I get financially? And I think that's where we do a great job here at CUC. We know that our clientele are first-generation students, and they're need-based. They do a tremendous job with that, because we want to offer everyone an opportunity to go to college, and they do a great job here.
Just briefly, could you define EFC? That's an industry term. And when you talk about 0 EFC, what do you mean?
Yes. So it is the education family contribution. So depending on what the parent makes, how much they make salary, and if you're a single parent or if you're married, they take that in consideration. So that's why it's very important, October 1, that every parent fills out the financial aid. Make sure they fill out their taxes from the previous year, send it in, and depending on how much their salary is, we'll let you know how much the government says that a family can contribute to their son or daughter education. And some people don't think it's fair. Some people, they scratch their head on that whole process. But some kids, their parents make less than $20,000, and the government says their family contributes 0 to EFC. Some parents make $200K, and they say that their parents can contribute $30,000. So maybe their need base, what they'll get from the government, might be 0, might be 100, and that student that it's called Pell, right, can get the max, which I believe is $6,300 from the government.
So yeah, it's a lot of schools are going to have some kind of calculator on their financial aid website that you guys can go to, plug in that information, and get a sense for what kind of need-based aid you might be getting from a Division III. Again, not something that's so commonly known for a lot of student athletes and their families looking towards college. But yeah, there's a lot of ways to earn the money in a Division III, and like I said, in many cases, if I can find good kids with good grades and good test scores, they're going to earn a lot more money from the school than I would ever be able to offer in scholarship, even at a Division I. Right, so it is a great route to be earning, money from the government, from the school, that you would never have to pay back, basically, in tuition credit. So appreciate that. I do want to get to some questions here. I know that people are interested in what you're talking about, and we're talking about it at a high level. So let's see what we got here. This one from Sean. How do we let colleges know that we are being recruited by other Division III schools? For you as a coach, is that something you want to know?
Absolutely. Great question, Sean. Not only D3, I want to know, is D2 schools reaching out to you? Are you being recruited to be a walk-on at a D1 level? It's all about people, and you can see it on social media. That's why I love kids that post it, right? They want to know that you're being chased by another university, right? And as a player, you're looking at the same thing. Who are they offering, right? Are they offering 5 receivers? Are they offering 6 quarterbacks? I think is a very, very great question to ask. And we do look at it. I look on social media. I want to know who's being offered, who's being looked at, who's being talked to, who's being invited to their virtual day. And it's maybe a kid that wasn't on my radar, right? If there's a kid that's, say, for example, in Texas, and he's getting recruited by one of the schools in our conference, right? Oh, man, if this kid's going to come and visit them, why not come visit us as well? Make that a whole weekend trip, because obviously he's ready to leave the state. So now let's get him. Let's come to Concordia-University Chicago, and it's all about the fit there, right? Maybe he wants to do education, right? And our education, no offense to schools in our conference, is better ranked than all those schools in our conference, right? So let's give that kid that opportunity to get one of the top-notch education and play football. Because like you said earlier, it's student first, student athlete. That's why I love Division III, because for them, it's not just go to the league, go to the league. They want to go professional. They want to go pro in a different area, with that being a doctor, being a lawyer, or working on Wall Street. And that's where I want to help them out, reach their goals.
Yeah, that's a touchy subject about, letting coaches know where else you're looking, because a lot of people keep that close to the chest, and I don't know why it needs to be such a secret. I don't think there's a lot of malicious intent by a lot of coaches or recruiting coordinators out there. They're just trying to figure out what it is that you're looking for, and how we can best help you through this process. Right. That's exactly how I ended up with NCSA, is like, look, I just want you to find success and have a good experience through recruitment. So great question, Sean. Really appreciate that one. Appreciate the answer there, too. This one from Misty. What are the best camps to attend? Obviously, Coach is on his way out to a camp right now in the Atlanta area. Best camps to attend, ID clinics with multiple schools or individual school camps. What's your personal approach to camps as a recruiter?
Wow. Missy, great question. So I would take this stance as an uncle, right? As a brother, as a family member. Go to the camp that's recruiting you, right? For example, if you're not getting recruited by Rutgers, going to their camp might not be a great fit, right? But if it's a major camp at Rutgers, where maybe a lower D1, D2, or D3 schools are going there, well, now it's a great camp to go to. For example, us, right? If you're not getting recruited, if you're not getting a walk-on, coming to our camp will be very beneficial, because now we get to evaluate you. Now you get to get coached by us. Now you can see if it's a right fit. So I always go back and forth to go to these big mega camps, just because there's just so many other kids there. There's so many other coaches there, right? And they usually cost a lot, right? So you just want to know, hey, am I getting the best value for how much I'm putting out there to pay? So Missy, great question. I would say if your son or daughter getting recruited by a university, definitely go to their camp and see what other camps they're going to, right? I'm on my way down to a camp in Marietta right now, working it with a couple of other schools down there. We recruit Georgia very well. We got, I think, over 20 guys on our roster. So going to that camp, you get to get evaluated by us, but also schools down in Georgia too.
And I have a follow-up question to this one, because I think there's a big assumption for certain sports that if I go to these camps or showcases or clinics, whatever it is, that I'm automatically going to be recruited, that these coaches are going to see me, I'm going to blow their socks off, and then offers are just going to come falling out of the sky, which you and I both know that's not necessarily true. Right. So what is it that an athlete can do to help themselves? I'm not advocating, like, go to camps. Absolutely do that. But there's a smart way to do that. In your opinion, what is the best path for an athlete to definitely be seen by coaches at these camps?
Yeah, and I was just talking to a good friend of mine about this, right? Unless you're going to run a 4-3, 4-4, 4-5, most of these D1 schools are not going to look at you. So, and if you're not going to run it, don't run it at these events, right? Leave it a mystery, because that right there alone will eliminate yourself in the process. Everybody want to know, they want to look at you. Do you meet their requirement height-wise, weight-wise? They want to see how fast you are, right? For me, I wasn't that fast. I was a 4.6 guy. I never ran a 40 at any camps I went to. I knew I was a football player, and I knew what I could do on the field, but I knew I wasn't one of these pro day, one of these showcase guys that was going to run a 4.4 and impress you. But if you are, please go ahead and do it. But if you're not, it's only going to hurt yourself in the process.
Yeah, so anybody going to that camp in Marietta, you might want to reevaluate whether or not you're going to run that 40. Okay, cool. Let's get to another question here. This one from Sean. Sean, back in the mix. Is it okay to ask for a visit and or a phone call? How do you want your athletes to communicate with you proactively?
Absolutely. Now, yes, you can ask that question. Please do. Before you ask that question, though, see if you meet their requirement. See if this is school of interest, right? I have some kids that say, hey, coach, I want to reach out. But then I ask them what's their GPA. It's a 2.2. I'm like, sorry, you won't get in. I don't want to waste your time, and I don't like my time wasted either. And then another kid might have a 3.7, but he wants to major in engineer. We don't offer engineer. And that's why I like having these good relationships with the people, because it's not about coming to us. It's about finding that right fit, like you mentioned earlier. I'm going to say, hey, we don't offer it, but North Park, they have a great engineering school. Go there, right? And they're in our backyard. People ask, why do you do that? Well, it's not about me. It's about that individual finding the right fit for him, somewhere he's going to stick for 4 years, get that degree, and be able to provide for him and his family in the future. So I would say before you ask for a visit or ask for or have that conversation with them, just see if it's a fit early on.
Got to do your research early on. Let's keep it moving here. Let's get another question in. This one from Tony. Coach, without being able to get game film right now, which is extraordinarily important for what you guys do, what kind of things should an athlete be putting together on video to present to you? I have a feeling about what you're going to say here, because you and I know that athleticism trumps everything.
Everything.
You can work with that as a coach, but in the absence of being able to get a good highlight film, if they weren't able to play, what are you looking for on that video from some of these athletes?
Absolutely. So I had a coach down in Texas. He literally put his players through a pro day, through a combine, right? He even did the measurements. He even did the height. So as a parent, do that for your son. See if their head coach would do it, but put them through the rigorous. See how they do agility. See what their times are. See if they're bench press. Evaluate them. Show some film of you going through different drills. You see it nowadays. A lot of guys got to get creative. Not a lot of the schools were able to go out on the road because of the dead period. So they were forced to send coaches workouts. And I love that. I encourage kids, hey, post it on your social media. Pin it on your Twitter. So when a coach look at your profile, that's the first thing he sees, right? You can have it start out an intro, say who you are, what your GPA is, and then have film of you working out in your backyard. Everybody want to see, can he change direction, how explosive he is, and then he meet our required academically.
Yep, video is king, and anybody can put together a decent looking highlight film. But when you get athletes that have to be creative about it, like that they've got this hustle and this passion that they really want to be able to figure this out, and the subtext there by putting together one of those strange workout videos is like, Coach, I care about my craft, and I care that you know about my craft as well. So great advice for those out there that are struggling a little bit with the highlight tape, maybe weren't getting so many games in and didn't put their best stuff forward, but they still want to get recruited. Absolutely. Certainly something that coach is looking for. So let's get to one last question here. This one from MC Nelson. Good afternoon, coaches. How important is it to college coaches that your child plays multiple sports in high school? It's a question we get a lot. Or should they just stay on focused on football? So obviously at some point you get very specialized, but there's a ton of crossover between wrestling, track, football. What kind of emphasis do you place on that as a recruiter?
Gotcha. So I always like to tell people my story, my background, so that way they get an understanding where I come from. I was a multiple sport athlete. When it was football time, I did football. When it was basketball, I did basketball. When it was track, I did track. So I encourage everyone, be a multiple sport athlete, especially at a younger age, because you don't know what your talent is, right? So figure it out. I wish I did lacrosse. I wish I did swimming. I wish I did more, right? But at being in the city, we didn't have those opportunities. So if you are awarded, do bowling, do tennis, see how good you are. Maybe you go professional doing that. And then as you get older, you go into high school. I quickly saw that I wasn't going to be 6'6". I knew I wasn't going to play basketball, and football was something that I was better at, that I excelled at. But it wasn't until high school, until that senior year, where I knew football was going to be my way to go to college. Up until then, I thought it was going to be basketball. I was Kobe. I had the fro. I wanted to play. I was this tall in 8th grade, and then I stopped. But then that's when senior year, I knew football was going to be my outlet to go to college.
It's not every day you get a college football coach recommending that you engage in bowling in high school, but experiences carry a long way. And I think for me as a coach, I wanted to know that you had multiple interests and that you were willing to put yourself out there a little bit. But, like we said earlier, athleticism trumps everything. And the best way to become an athlete is to do a lot of different sports. So just go out, figure out what works for you. Obviously, you kind of want to continue to focus on your craft and be good at football or whatever your primary sport is. But coaches respond very well to those that do multiple sports. I want to sneak in one more question here. This one from Stacy. Should an athlete have a social media account at age 15 or 16? Coach, what are your thoughts?
Good question, Stacy. Man, so 15, 16, I believe they're sophomores, maybe freshmen. I think if you use it for recruiting purposes, absolutely. You're putting it out there. You're showing that you're working out, but you're also showing that you have a soul. You're a person. You're a human being. I want to see it. I want to see what kind of person. What are you posting on there, right? For me, if you check out my social media, it's about sports. It's about spirits. So you're looking at it. You're getting an idea of who I am. As coaches, we do the same thing. We want to know, what is he posting? Is he doing things the wrong way, right? That can hurt a lot of kids. But if he's posting workouts on there, if he's keeping up to date with sports, I don't see no harm in that. Post it. You putting track up there. You're putting all that. I would allow my son, if he was 15 or 16, to use it so he can follow other coaches, right? And it's a way for him to put himself out there. He can send coaches his huddle film. I think it's another way to engage in coaches out there.
Yeah, social media is just a part of the fabric of our life these days. And you got to be a little bit careful with what you're putting out there. I think, social media has turned me away from certain recruits if I didn't like what they were putting out there. But, undeniably, like Coach said, it's about building relationships and understanding who it is as a person that you are recruiting to be a part of your program for 4 years. And social media is a very quick way to understand what that athlete is about. But at the same time, it is not the primary driver for recruiting, right? You want to do this through proper channels. You want to start that NCSA recruiting profile so coaches have a legitimate way to search for you. But email is going to be, phone calls, campus visits are always going to be kind of the primary driver behind this. But social media is certainly part of that ethos. So, Coach, thanks for being here. Right. Any closing thoughts for the people out there as we talk about this recruiting process?
Absolutely. NCSA helped us tremendously. Seriously. We use you guys' platform a lot. You guys help us early in the process. Forgot to mention that out there too. But we go to you guys a lot, right? We weren't able to hit the road. We actually just got done a season. We had 3 games. So we got to play catch up. And one of the ways we did it was using you guys, using your software. You guys helped us out. I was able to reach out to kids in Georgia to let them know that I was coming to their camp in Georgia through email, through text. So it definitely makes our job as coaches easy. So I recommend every parent that's listening, every parent that's out there, please sign up, get your son out there. And then coaches, every coach should be using you guys' database because it helps. It helps create that pipeline. And it's about relationships too. You guys done a great job for us, and I'm happy that I was able to have this interview, just giving a little back for you guys. So thank you. Thanks for having me on.
Well, man, appreciate that. Yeah, shameless plug there. Appreciate that, too. It is a free platform for athletes and coaches to use. It's all about making that connection and, figuring out both ways what's a good fit. So Coach Charles Watkins, he is a football coach at Concordia-University in Chicago. He also serves as the recruiting coordinator. Coach, thanks for being here. Everybody out there, appreciate the questions. Appreciate you joining us here, and hopefully we'll see you guys again very soon. Take care.